In today's video, we're going to be going over the web access controller. This is going to be model ASC3202B, and we're going to be setting it up over as a standalone device. So to get started, we're going to want to initialize the unit. I pulled up ConfigTool. We can do a quick refresh, make sure it populates. And here you can see the default IP address is 192.168.1.108. So let's go ahead and initialize it. We're going to enter a new password, but for this tutorial, we're just going to do admin123. And it's highly recommended you enter an email in case the password is forgotten. But for this tutorial, we're just going to disable it. Once the device is initialized, we want to make sure it's on the local network. So we're going to be changing the IP address. To do that, we want to enter the password first, admin123. Hit OK. Then select Edit, and you want to make sure you assign it to your local network. I know 201 is available, so I'm going to be setting it for 50.201. And you want to make sure that the gateway is correct as well. Once that's done, you want to hit OK. When you see that little green check mark, that means it was successful, so I'm going to do a quick refresh. Make sure it took. So now we can log into the web interface and finish the setup. I'm going to open up Chrome and log into the web interface 192.168.50.201. And now you're going to be greeted with the time zone settings. So for date format, we're in the USA. So I'm going to be selecting month, day, year. I'm located in the West Coast, so I'm going to select -8 for Baja California. And I'll do a sync to PC just to make sure that the time is properly set. And then we're going to hit next. I'm going to check for auto updates. And now we want to log in. So here we'll enter the login information, admin, and then admin123 for the password. Hit login. And now we need to go through the setup of the controller. So this is going to be the main controller. So we're going to select main control and hit next. Here we can select one of two things. We can select the single door or the double door. Single door is usually based for anti-passback, but for this tutorial, we'll do a double door setup. I'm going to go ahead and rename the doors. And I'm just going to call this front door. And we can call door 2 side door. We're going to hit next, and now we have the interface section. So we're going to have both doors, front door, and then we're also going to see our relays. So for the relays, we have two sets of relays. We have a 12-volt powered relay. We have both fail secure and fail safe. And we can also select relay, which is a dry contact, and you could use a 24-volt mag lock if needed, but you will need to supply an external power supply. And we have both positions locked and unlocked. And for the reader, we're going to have two different sets of wirings that we could use. We could use Wiegand or we could use RS45. Both my readers that I have connected are under RS45, so we'll leave it at that. And we also have OSDP, which is an encrypted version of RS45, and you must be wired over RS45 in order for you to use this. But we're just going to go with RS45. We also have exit button, which is going to be your REX, and your door detector, which is your door sensor. Once you have the appropriate interfaces selected, you're going to want to hit next. And here you just finalize the type of unlock settings you want to select. So we have combination method. This is OR, so you can unlock the door via card, fingerprint, or password. Or if you want to have a multi-authentication method, you could use and it would require at least 2 authentication methods in order for you to open up the door. We're going to select OR. And these are your alarm settings. This is your duress alarm and your door detector. This will be linked to your unlock timeout. So a certain amount of time, this is going to be in seconds, you will have an alert for when the door sensor is opened. You also have door unlock duration, which is your latch time, the amount of time you want that relay to stay active for. And you can also do the same thing with the side door or the second door. And once you set up your settings, you want to hit next. And this is your diagram. You can download the image, print it out, and use it as a reference. But the settings that you've entered before, you'll see the entries here on the diagram. That way you can use it to know where to wire. Once that's done, you want to hit apply. And then you'll be greeted with the dashboard. So up here, you'll be able to see the status of the device, if it's online or offline, the total of alarms that you have, and the capacity limitation and the current usage of the data that you have added to the controller. Everything's zeros because we haven't added anything yet. So first thing we want to do is go to person management, and we want to create our users. On the left-hand side, you have your department list. This is where you would want to allocate if you want to have staff members, managers, and get it nice and organized. This is where you would want to do it. Default company is pretty much your site, so I'm just going to call this DAWA for now, but you can call it whatever the location is called. And now we want to add 2 departments. For this tutorial, we'll do a staff and then we'll do a manager. So let's go ahead and create a new department. We'll call this managers. And we also want to create another one called staff. Okay, once your departments are created, you want to create your users. So let's create a manager user. We'll select add now. For our manager, we're going to use ID 1, and we'll just call this one William for now. And under authentication, this is where you can set up your password, card, and fingerprints. I'll be selecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because our minimum is going to be at least 6 digits. For card, you want to make sure you select the little gear icon. This will allow you to enroll in 2 different methods. If you have an accessory that we sell, then you would want to select enrollment rater, plug in the accessory onto your PC, and you would be able to scan it that way. Alternatively, you can use device, and this will allow you to use one of the wired readers. So I'm going to be using reader 1. I have a card and fingerprint reader in reader 1, and on reader 2, I have a pin and card reader. So I'll select reader 1. And then I can go ahead and select add. Now I can scan my card. There it is. I'm going to select add. And for fingerprint, same thing. You want to make sure you hit the little gear icon first, select the device, and then reader 1. And then we're going to hit add.
Please press your finger on the scan.
So you're going to have to scan your fingerprint 3 times. You'll hear an audible beep.
Please press your finger. Registration success.
Once you scan it 3 times, it's going to tell you it's successful, and we're going to add. The last tab is going to be permissions, but we're not going to do anything here yet because we want to create our time zones and door groups before we start giving it permissions. So we're just going to hit add, and that's going to complete our manager user. Okay, so now we want to create a staff user. So let's go to staff. We're going to select add. And we'll give this one number 2 for user ID. For name, we can call it Bob. And now we need to go to authentication. For password, since we already used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the manager, we could use 654321. That would be our PIN for Bob. And for card, we'll get and do the same thing. It's already selected as reader 1. But we will be using reader 2 just to be 100% sure. And we'll hit OK. We'll select add. And we want to scan our second card. There's our second card. We can select add. And now we can select add again to create our user. So now we have 2 separate two separate users. We have a manager user and we have a staff user. But we want to create our permissions. So to do that, we're going to go to access control config. And we want to create our templates. So we already have a pre-allocated 24/7 template, and we could use this for the manager. But we want to create one for staff that has limited access. So we're going to go and select time template and click on the plus icon. We can give this a name. We'll call this staff access. And we can do something like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. as a description. To change the time, you want to select on one of the timelines, and you can either drag the little circle to indicate what time you want on the timeline, or you can just click on the actual time itself and then give it a more exact time. So we'll do 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then we're going to hit OK. I'm going to copy this to the rest of the week. Hit OK. And now we have our time schedule. So if we also want to limit or create holiday plans, we need to go to the holiday tab. And we need to create our holiday. So we're going to select holiday. We can call this New Year's. And then we select the date that the holiday is going to take effect. So for New Year's, it's going to be January 1st. And we want to select the amount of days that the holiday is active for. So New Year's is only 1 day, so we'll select duration 1 day, and then we can hit OK. To select the time, blue means access, grayed out means no access, so we don't want them to have access to New Year's, so we're going to have it completely grayed out. And for the event to actually take effect, we want to make sure that we check New Year's and that we see New Year's on the right-hand side. And then we hit apply. Okay, so we just created our time template for staff access with a holiday plan included. So now we need to create two different sets of permissions for groups for the doors. So we go to permission settings on the left-hand side. And we're going to create one for managers and create one for staff. So let's go ahead and click plus on area permission. And for this, we can call this manager access. And remarks, we can just do full access, or we can do both doors. And then for the time template, we're going to select the allocated 24/7 template just so that they have access 24/7. And we're going to select both doors. So select both doors, make sure it's on the right-hand side, and then hit OK. So that creates a door group, but now we need to give permissions. So we're going to select the edit person. And here we can select either the full department. So if you have multiple users under the managers, you can select all of them, or you can do them individually. So we're going to get and give William access to manager. And now William has access. Now we're going to create one for the staff. So we'll select the plus icon one more time. We'll call this one staff access. And let's limit it to only one door. So we can do front door only. And then we're going to select just front door. So we're going to hit OK. And now we need to give the users permission to this door. So we'll hit edit person. And now we're going to select staff. And then hit OK. And now that gives Bob, which is our staff, access to only front door, not the second door or the side door. Okay, once we created the users and the door permissions, we can go ahead and test it out now. We're going to go to access monitoring, and here's your console. So you can open up the doors remotely, and you can also view the status of the door. So let's go ahead and scan card number 1. This is for the manager. There it is. Door just opened on front door. Let's scan it in door 2. And there it is. So managers have access to both doors. Now, if we scanned the card for Bob on front door, it's going to open. But when we scan it in door 2, it's going to tell you that the user has no permission to open up the door. We can also do the pins. So for the manager, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And to enter the pin, you want to select the user first, or the user ID, which is 1, pound, and then the pin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pound again. Again, you need to enter the user ID, then pound, and then the pin, and then pound. If we try to open up door 2 via Bob's password, it's not going to let us. So if we do 2, pound, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pound, it's going to tell you that the user has no permission. We can also do fingerprint. So we can use the fingerprint there and the fingerprints for the manager. So you can see that it was unlocked by fingerprint for front door. The last thing I do want to go over is going to be getting this added to the mobile app. So to do this, you want to open up DMSS. So I'm going to go switch over to my phone. This is DMSS. First thing you want to do is make sure you're logged into an account. To do that, you want to select on the bottom right, Me. And you want to create an account and log into an account. If you are not, it's not going to let you to add a device. So you want to make sure you're on an account before adding the device. So now to add the device, you want to go to Home. Select the plus icon. Select serial number and scan. And for the VT or for the access controller, you want to go to Local Device Config, Network Settings, Cloud Service, and here you'll see your QR code. So this is where you'll scan the QR code. So for DMSS, scan it, make sure you're selecting account, and then hit Next. Here you want to give it a name, so we're just going to call it ASC for now, and then the device password, which was admin123 that we created it with. Now we're going to hit Save. It's going to ask us for time zone. We already created this when we initialized the device, so we're just going to hit Done. Okay, so now we have access to our front door and side door, and we can unlock the doors remotely. And what we can do as well is go to Unlock Records, and we can check the logs. So here you'll be able to see the ID of the users that open up the door and the method that they use to open up the door. On the right-hand side, you can see that doors were opened via card. The lock icons mean password or PIN, and the fingerprint icon means it was opened up via fingerprint. But that concludes our tutorial for the web controller. Thanks for watching.